Alright, just doing a quick video here. Doing a little something different. So far I've gone 15-11 with this Melting Remnant and Stygian both exiled version combo. Not really quite where I want it to be. And I'm trying to take a look at my data so far and see if I can glean anything from it. You know, at these sample sizes it's hard to really get much, but if I see some trends, it might just give me some insight. So right off the bat, one thing I notice here is that, you know, I obviously target going the burnout route, and it seems like I'm doing pretty well when I achieve that, but I'm doing abysmally bad when I don't. So if I don't start burnout, it's almost like it's a really high chance that I'm going to lose. So I'm 12 and 6 when starting burnout. So because I would never switch out of burnout into any of these other things. That's how I kind of know that there. And then with the other variants, I've done Spike 1, Burnout 2, and Spike 3, Endless 3, and only got one win each with those. So either those other variants are really weak, or I just don't know how to play them, is what I'm kind of getting from there. You know, I always have the ideal route I want to go, but there has to be, if I'm going to have consistency, if I'm going to have win streaks, you know, 1/3 of the time you're not going to start with the thing you want to start with, and there has to be a good backup plan, and I think right now that's what's suffering. Like, I really don't know what to really do to get a good win rate outside that. But yeah, if you look over here, it's like I'm 12 and 6 starting burnout, so really good win rate, 75%. But if I don't, then it's like 3 and 5, which is certainly not good, right? 3 and 5, right? Yeah. But anyway, so, and this I'm just kind of listed out, and basically the way I'm counting this is, you know, if it showed up at the end screen. So if I removed all of them, it won't show up here, and if I had multiples, it will not get tallied. So a little bit of nuances there, but anyway, so over here is kind of what I'm interested in. First, the units. I'm looking at 3 kind of different things here. I'm just looking at the win-loss ratio. So like a 1 here would mean I win as much as I lose. So 1 is literally 50% win rate. And then the other thing I'm looking at is just the unit diff. So that's like overall when I picked them on the wins versus the losses. Is there a big like total difference? So with the units, I'm not seeing a whole lot other than I mean, train stewards to be expected. Like, it's a very high priority remove in this strategy because of the random reform that you typically are stuck with at the beginning. You really just, those stewards are dead in your hand, and they really can't be played, and if you do play them, it'll kind of spell your defeat. Otherwise, there is Wickless Baron has not really been performing that well. You know, 28% win rate, 3 more losses than wins. Conceptually, I think I kind of get it. I do think the unit is a little bit overrated when it's not like super harvest heavy. I mean, there is a lot of harvest here. Like, I'm killing all the units on the same floor, but I don't know, when you don't have a lot of your own units adding to the mix, dying like, you know, Remnant Host and whatnot, just kind of doesn't really do the trick. A lot of these other ones just don't have enough sample size to really glean much from it. I will say the sweepers have performed quite well. I've no losses with either of them and 5 wins between them, so maybe I'll focus a little hard, because I wasn't really targeting sweepers, I was just taking them if they were there. So I'll be interested to try to target sweepers a little more. I guess it does make sense having a huge, powerful sweeper, that it would be good, especially if you can like put some quickness on it. Drafts, I thought they would be more insane, but they're about as much winning as they are losing, which is still a good sign, I'd say. Like, that, because I've picked them a lot. But they definitely aren't like as strong as I thought they would be. And not a huge amount of surprises otherwise. Lately the Reform has performed quite well too. I think that needs to be a pretty high target ad, so I think I'm going to take Wickless a little bit less, Reformed a little bit more, and the Sweepers a lot of bit more, and see if that improves things. Trying to think if there's anything else unit-wise that I'm getting here. Paraffin also, I thought, similar to Draft, I was thinking they were like S tier, but maybe that's not the case. They do account for a lot of losses, even though they do account for a lot of wins as well. And it kind of makes sense. I mean, drafts are not banner units, so the consistency isn't quite there to get them like when you need them. And Paraffin is more of, it definitely shines a bit more endgame, I would say. Kind of really wants some multi-strike as well. Bounty Stalker doesn't surprise me too much. There's just not a huge amount of reform, especially when I'm focusing on the reform burnout extension strategy here. And then yeah, that's pretty much it there. Then we got the spells, and I mean the few things. Energy Siphon just sucks. It's like a pretty big difference there. I have a no win, so with the ratio I did put a little just to get around some divide by zero errors. I just said like if it's perfect, like no losses, I'll just put the total there, and if it's like anti-perfect, like no wins, just all losses, I'll say trash. Now obviously a lot of these aren't, I mean like Dark Deal's not trash, but with the variance it just happened to be, I only got it once and it was in a loss. But Energy Siphon makes sense. With I'd only be having it if it was in my starting hand, and it's just a horrible spell to have because it doesn't consume itself, and your starting basic cards don't have spell damage, so you know, rarely if you get it in your opener does it even combine with any spell damage. So it's literally just burning a hole in your hand, and you can't even consume it during the fight like a Train Steward or something. And there's other stuff. Let's see, Hallowed Drippings perform quite well. 6 more wins than losses. It's I don't know how much of that is just due to weird variance though, right? Like, I mean, I guess it makes sense. You know, these low-cost consume cards, if they have a good effect, tend to be really good. I mean, it's like you don't even have to remove them later on if they're not really doing anything for you, but during the early game, there are some pretty big spikes. I mean, Hallowed Drippings can pretty much alone allow you to save a ton of higher health against those early bosses, because you usually don't have much burnout, right? But if you have a Hallowed Drippings, then you're good. Memories Melted, I'm going to chalk this one up to variance. It just wasn't there for the losses, and for the wins, I typically don't remove it unless I'm really have removals to spare, because it's an easy one to just consume, but it usually has 0 impact. It actually was, for the first time in my like hundreds of hours of playing, one of these wins I did actually see a little bit of impact with it in that stupid offering, like the just laughable, ridiculous offering token run. It did give me an energy spike in that, but that's the only time it's ever done anything for me, like hundreds of hours playing. Offering token, or sorry, I meant offering monument when I was talking about that. But anyway, offering token is somehow 4-0. I mean, I do like offering token, especially if you have any sort of incant, and obviously if you have offering targets, it's just pretty damn good. I didn't expect it to be this good though. I'd chalk a bit of that to variance. I'm probably still not going to really go out of my way to like try to find offering tokens. I might think about Hallowed Drippings a little bit more though. Like early game, even if I have, I don't know, like a Purifying Cleanse or whatnot, I might just take it. On that note too, Purifying Cleanse performed pretty well. Sacred Wicks somehow did. I never thought that was that good of a card, but I guess all the extra reform does help. If anything, it consumes itself for 0 as well. Urchin Spines was a very interesting one. That one, it's a pretty good card, like, because by the time you get it, you actually have spells to do damage, unlike Energy Siphon. And even if not, I mean, you will have damage by then, but Even if you didn't have a whole lot, it's at least consumes itself and still does a lot more than Energy Siphon does. Just way more high impact. I'll probably still look out for it. Driftfall did not perform super well. I've always had trouble evaluating this card. I do think I'm probably going to start taking it a little bit less. It's been pretty underwhelming. Flash Freeze I'm starting to love this card a lot more. Like, it is a way to get to the back line. It's also pretty good for those early bosses. It stacks a lot of Frostbite, and you can do it like during the waves as well. Pretty flexible card. You can even use it to kill your own units if you need to. Frenzied Swarm has been an absolute beast apparently. Like, I've always known it's good, but it's like one of the best performing spells in this whole combo, it seems. So I have passed it up a few times. I might really start to target Frenzied Swarm more. I guess it makes sense because you'll get all your offerings off, and even though I'm like wanting sometimes I shy away from it because I kind of want my frontliner to get hit, right? So I trigger the Extinguish, but I think at the same time having the flexibility just to throw your hand away, but more importantly to get all that dazed, especially when you have a set of units that isn't like particularly tanky. I can see why Frenzied Swarm has performed so well. And Ice Storm's an interesting one. Literally no losses, 4-0 with it. Probably a little bit of variance going there, but I mean, it is a pretty good spell if you have spell damage. It's useless if you don't, but unlike Plink, you're not usually just stuck with it in your opener, so usually you're taking it if you look ahead and see that you have Spell Shop right around the corner. At any rate, you could even just put the Surge Stone on it, so I guess it kind of makes sense that it's good when I add it. Molded didn't do as well as I thought it would. It's about a 50% win rate. I thought having cheap targeted reform would give me a pretty big spike, but doesn't seem to be the case. Anything else here? Remnant Pact, also like 6-0. That one makes sense when you got the burnout version of Full Fade. Just sticking it on her, like, when even if you can duplicate it, you can stick it on her and one of your units. That way, for whatever reason, you all do, your wave gets taken out during a boss phase. You can at least put the both of them there, and that's still a pretty good reform. Because in this, in the burn, what is it? Burn Bright? No, not Burn Bright. Whatever the extinguish and add burnout path is for Little Fade, like, you're not really reforming your wave much. You're only reforming Little Fade. So Endless ends up being a lot better than actual reform, it seems. So definitely, I'm surprised it's 6-0. It's probably, I mean, I'd probably be able to lose with it, but certainly seems to be very strong. I think I'll seek it out even more heavy than I already do. Resin Removal, I'm chalking that to variance. It doesn't really do anything. Siren Song performed worse than I thought it would. I've always thought it's like one of the better spells, but it could be variance, but hasn't been great. Titan's Gratitude's been pretty good. Makes sense. When they buffed it to Attuned, it became a stupidly powerful thing. Wicklash, on the same vein as Hollow Drippings and Purifying Cleanse, just seems to be doing good. I mean, I think it really drives home, I guess, and even later the Reform, it really drives home that it's not really Reform that is the game plan here. It is Burnout Extension, so I think having those cards early really helps for taking on those bosses, and then later on, it's not like they're really burning a hole in your deck. They still do things. Anything else here? Fatal Melting, I mean, I guess it is like the only one of the true AoEs for this combo. It's not a great one, but I guess I'm not. 3-0, I expect that to normalize to a lesser win rate, but I guess it doesn't surprise me that it's at least decent. Deep Offering, I've started to love this card. Subsuming Blade has been performing very well, as it always does. Luckily I found out early on in my kind of time learning Melting Ram how good this card was. I remember like the first time I looked at it, I thought it was such a bad card. Like 2 energy for a seemingly very small scaling amount of damage just seemed like crap, but it's actually really good. It can scale up usually at least to like 30 damage on a typical run, and that's without holdover. With holdover, you're gonna get it to like 60. Just yeah, let's see, what is that? 4 more wins than losses, 75% win rate, just pretty good. Wicked Blaze is like pretty similar to Molded. I guess Wicked Blaze performed a little bit more like I thought Molded would. But you know, they're still good. I'll still target them. Maybe I should target them a little less. Like I want at least one that way I can put on a holdover. But I don't need like multiple copies because, as I said, you're only really reforming Little Fade. And the other stuff doesn't need to get reformed, so all that extra reform is just burning a hole in your pocket. Burn a hole in your deck, I should say. An Ancient Synergy. God, this card is so good. I'm not surprised that it's 6 and 0. I don't know how you could lose with it, honestly. Like, you just slap 2 energy upgrades on it, and for 1 energy you just clear out a wave. I mean, what's not to love about that? Hellvent it right at the end. Like, at any stage in the game it just cleans everything up. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets nerfed at some point, but till then, yeah, that's pretty much it. So takeaways there are no surprise with Ancient Synergy. I mean, I pretty much always pick that when I see it. Maybe Remnant Pack, definitely stick with. Ice Storm, I should always look ahead to see if there's Spell Shop. And probably priority is getting these energy siphons out of the deck. Maybe even, I don't know, maybe even before Stewards if I don't have any spell damage. Target extension a little more early game, I think, especially if I don't have any. And yeah, hopefully this helps. I don't have huge insights from this to really go off of, but I at least have a little bit, so we'll see if moving forward I can get a better win rate. So at this point it's 15-11. I want to get to like a 6 or 7 streak. That's what I feel like it should be able to do, and then maybe more like closer to that 75% win rate that I'm already hitting with the burnout route. That's kind of what I'm targeting. So yeah, kind of just a stupid little video I figured I'd make. Until next time.